So I'm happy to be here, and I'm also glad to be able to share with you some of the principles I've learned through the years about biohacking. It's such a very easy topic and very complicated too at the same time because it's very new. I've presented a few lectures on biohacking. The first one was in Amsterdam for the biohacking conference, and I did also one in Thailand this year. I kind of changed some of the slides to fit the audience, but it's going to be very, very important because you're all doctors and there are patients here also, and I hope I'll be able to tell you more about this exciting field. As a disclosure, I work as a clinical educator for Nordic laboratories based in Denmark. I handle all the Asia and Pacific clients and doctors. And I'm also a lecturer for the Wellness Institute in Bangkok, which stands for Wellness and Hospitality Institute. When we talk about biohacking, bio means life, as we know, and hacking, although it's more popular term in the tech industry, it's like somewhat like someone gains access to something that they're not supposed to know. But for us, hacking here refers to any process of modification or even innovation that will experiment on certain system. So it could be something that you want to really learn more about, and so you'll be able to do it yourself. And so that's why also it's very popular, and it has always gained the do-it-yourself kind of science, So when you say you're also hacking something, you're taking something apart, little by little different pieces, and then putting them together in a more creative and a more innovative way. So to define what is biohacking, biohacking is in fact the practice of making incremental changes. It doesn't have to be one big change. It could just be a small change on a day-to-day basis to actually alter or to change one's biology and lifestyle to enhance their physical and mental performance such as health and well-being. So the emergence of biohacking happened in the year 1990 to 2000, when our friends, from the industry, there are more of the synthetic biology aspect. When engineering and medicine have collaborated together to come up with new things in medicine. As medicine becomes more advanced, they needed the help of engineers to be able to come up with certain machine or certain technology to be able to upscale, their practice. And so this is what we call the synthetic biology revolution. And of course, in the time, the engineers or those in the biotech company, because of the Human Genome Project that finished around that time, they said, why don't probably we do something in their individual approach to improve health, to try something different, which is apart from the medical field. And that kind of really paved the way for biohacking. In 2008, there's this community of non-medical professionals, but very interesting, intelligent people that have actually come together to conduct biological experiments outside traditional labs. So during that time, they would have, let's say, in the garage, machine that would actually run genetic tests, or probably they have like a small laboratory that would run the organic acids testing. So these people have actually done an open source biology, meaning the knowledge is not just for themselves, although they experiment on themselves, they bring it out to the open. There's like a website, there's even like a circulating publication that everyone is looking to, and they could try them as well by themselves. So there was like a community that's being built around biohacking, and therefore it has been really like popularized in the US alone. But from 2010 until present, the modern biohacking really focuses on three things, which is self-improvement. Self there is very important because it does not really propose or promote to anyone to do the same thing as they're doing. It's really more for their own personal approach. And then there's also health optimization, meaning there's this performance inherent to them, and then they wanted to optimize that. And lastly, most biohackers that you would know today, those who are very popular in the US or in other parts of the world, they're usually given a diagnosis that's probably terminal, or probably something that they cannot really accept themselves. That's why they have done for themselves something different, something to optimize their function, to reverse the disease, and actually to prove to themselves, most and foremost, to be able to say that they could really win this, they could actually get rid of that diagnosis. So the tenets or the principles for modern biohacking would probably be summarized into these 5 areas that I would like to really present, because there's a difference between what's the principle of biohacking that we need to be always following. There's a difference also from the strategies. You know, like diet, nutrition, it's not a principle, but it's just one of the strategies. But the principle being behind biohacking should be, first, is self-optimization. So the goal or the principle is that you wanted to optimize, you wanted to improve, you wanted to probably increase the performance of certain organs or tissues in your body. Second is that it's data-driven experimentation. It's different when you do like a high school science project from, you know, you are basing your experiment on certain data that's already known, and then you're willing to adjust depending on what is actually given to you. There's also the so-called holistic understanding. You know, it's different from of course, it came about from the tech giants, you know, in the Silicon Valley, where biohacking has first been observed. It's different from a closed system that you know in a computer system. We humans, we have a different biology. We are actually governed with processes internally in our body, but also we are subject to other alteration, to other form of like modification depending on our outside environment. So it's not a closed system altogether. So it needs to be an understanding that it is a holistic approach when it comes to biohacking. There's also community engagement. One thing that the biohackers have actually proposed is that it should not be a one-man-in-island kind of like principle. You need to be able to report and to describe and even to publish out there, even through a website or through your own personal blog, something that you have done yourself. Is a self-experimentation. You are your own master, you are your own body, and so you kind of show to the world what have you done, and then they will actually be able to copy or follow after you leave. Then lastly, there's a continuous learning. This is one thing I like about biohackers. You know, like they never stop learning. And then as doctors, we're kind of not always in that kind of mindset. Once you've done so many years of education, we're kind of stuck in our office or in our clinic doing the same thing over and over again. And here comes the non-medical professionals, or even those who are even just like laymen, understanding more about biology, and like at one point we're somehow offended, but in fact it's also we are actually at fault, because some doctors, they don't really want to learn more about what's happening. You know, like learning is never a destination. It's always a moving target. You know, like you cannot just say I want to reach from one point to the other point. The target keeps on moving, keeps on like becoming more and more, and keeps on changing. So what I propose in some of my lecture, whenever let's say I'm asked to talk about organic acid tests, about Dutch hormones or urinary hormones, or I get to talk about other testing or genetic tests, I always present 3 major areas that I want the doctors or patients to understand: hardware, software, and malware, which I put here. The hardware is your physical body, the phenotype. This is how you see yourself to be. So this is like probably you have this height, this kind of weight, you have this body type, you have, let's say, some certain problem with your skin, you have eczema, or probably you have some certain problem with your hair, like mine. I have more gray hair than others at my age. And then there's the software. The software is what we test. You know, it could be a blood test, a genetic test, a microbiome test. You know, this is something that is ingrained in the individual that could actually probably not add another limb to your body or add another pair of eyes, but it's actually understanding that it could change the way you behave, or even you would address certain kinds of diseases. But there's a so-called malware also. It's another understanding that we are not a closed system. We are a system that can get affected by the environment. I'll tell you later more about the genetics, because when you run your genetic test, you know, it's like you have a gun with bullets, but you need the environment to pull the trigger. So you're never in prison to your genes. You have a way of switching on or off certain genes depending on the environmental inputs. So this is also what I wanted to show when it comes to biohacking. It's like there's always a changing environment and approaches, and even sometimes strategy, which I will present in the next slide. If you would look at the different strategies in biohacking, which are the 6 main types I would probably consider, There's diet and nutrition, there's sleep science, physical fitness, mental health, biometrics and self-tracking, and community and networking. You would kind of see the similar aspect, although not all, in the so-called lifestyle medicine. I'm speaking at the lifestyle medicine conference 2 weeks back in Bangkok, and they have the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, which are nutrition or diet, sleep, physical activity, stress management, and the things that we don't see in biohackers are the avoidance of risky substances, it's part of lifestyle medicine, and positive social connection could be just similar to community and networking. So somehow, that's the reason probably why biohacking has a different take on different a set of people. Like it could be similar to other individual or patients' approach to becoming better, to becoming healthier. And it could somehow probably make the patient or even ourselves kind of more familiarized about what we know already, what is good in medicine, because it clearly somehow defines what a lifestyle medicine approach could be. What I would like to say also is that the very basic and most important part of biohacking is that one needs to know or to be very familiar or to be a master of how a system works before you can even be able to biohack or to be able to actually put it out together and then put it back again for a more innovative approach. Before one could actually recognize the flaws and how to learn to hack it. This is very, very important because people say I'm a biohacker, but you ask them about their own genetic test. Maybe they haven't even done it. How can you be able to hack yourself if you don't even know the basic things about yourself? And there are also different levels of biohacking. I'd like to present that there are the basic ones, the basic knowledge that you need to know as a biohacker, and there are a deeper understanding if you wanted to get deeper into biohacking. So it's a difference between, do you just want to know your genetic profile, or do you really want to know your real self when you're in meditation? When you're quiet, you're all sitting by yourself, and you can really not sit still because you cannot be with yourself. So how well do you know yourself that you're okay to be with yourself? So these are different levels of understanding about yourself and your own biology. I have put here 2 columns to recognize the difference of the must-knows and the nice-to-know. In medicine, we're always taught in a lecture, like the doctors or our professor would say, okay, these are the must-knows. These are the only things you need to know because it will come out in the board exam or in a testing scenario. But the must-knows are always understood, and the nice-to-know must have probably been gotten more to the lay people or those who are in the research field that they are becoming more like better than the doctor. When in fact, they're not better than the doctors, or not the doctors are better than the patient. It's just that when you combine the must-know and the nice-to-know, you get a fuller understanding of how our body should be working. Like, you just don't want to know about anatomy and physiology. You want to know deep down to the biochemistry of things. You don't want to just know your genetics. You want to know the epigenetic factors, such as the vitamin D3 that one of the speakers mentioned. That when a pregnant woman supplements with vitamin D3 during the pregnancy, she's actually changing the biology of the baby that she's carrying, that it will prevent diabetes to that child when it gets into adulthood. That's how vitamin D affects the genetics, and that's how we call epigenetics. Diet and nutrition, it is a basic knowledge of biohacking to know about diet and nutrition, what you should be eating, what you should not be eating. And then, once you know already how to eat, with a more advanced biohacker, now what to do is the next thing, how to not eat. So there's a different level of you understanding first what you should be eating, then eventually they'll tell you fast. You don't have to eat. So there's a different approach when it comes to different kind of principles. Vitamin supplementation. So we'd always say take herbs, take supplement, take a infusion of this one. But for a more advanced biohacker, he wants to focus on liver detoxification. Like if I'm confronted with a patient, for example, with the genetics of very fast phase 1 metabolism for detoxification process, for me to have the liver, I would avoid every form of herbs. Like patient would tell me, well, why don't you want to just give silymarin, or why don't you just want to give dandelion extract? And then I tell them, when you have liver detoxification problem, and there's a phase 1 upregulation and a phase 2 problem, like there's no glutathione gene, I want to give only amino acid that will not require the liver for another second pass of its being detoxified. If you give herbs, eventually that same herbs will tell the liver, hey, detoxify me after helping the liver. So it's like a double kind of work for the liver. So I give them first the thione, alpha-lipoic acid, calcium deglucarate before I even give herbs later on when I have actually removed some of those detoxifying agents. Now, movement and exercise. I failed that question by other speaker when he asked about exercise because I do not exercise every day because I know my genetic profile. Exercise creates a physical stress, which for me would actually lead to cascade of event in my inflammatory reaction. The same way if I eat bread, tomorrow I get rashes on my face. I have a different form of biology. And so for me, I never exercise every day. I would do it in moments when I'm feeling better. Because once I'm stressed from work, I've done this before. Like I would come from work, I'd go and then say, oh, circuit training, that sounds really interesting. After a few days, I'm so tired and I'm so stressed because here I come having to meet targets at work. I need to meet this number of patients. I need to be able to come up with some good profile and also some protocol. And when I go to the gym, the trainer would ask me, you need to finish this station at this given number of time. It's like another hitting of a target. It's like it's never ending kind of performance level, performance-based kind of movement. And so I recognize that in my practice that it would be diet that's the first and foremost important, or nutrition when it comes to longevity, but exercise will never be my number one. And even I don't promote that to patients. It's like a car. You have a vintage car somewhere that you have collected. You know that the more fuel that the car utilizes, the more it could actually cause problem to the engine. That's why you don't drive it anymore. You just preserve it. The same way, the more food you eat, the more you will have to detoxify, and the more you will age. The same goes with physical exercise. The more you exercise, the more inflammatory reaction, the more you have to detoxify that, and eventually it will lead to prolonged stress. But each is different. Every single approach is different depending really on your motivation. Like the microbiome. Microbiome kind of suddenly changes when you do certain physical exercises. Or the easiest also to change in 3 days' time, you change your diet, you change your microbiome. So there are different approaches. I'm proposing that there's not one single right approach. The thing is, that's how medicine is now. It keeps on changing. You need to be able to know what's true to yourself and then eventually promote what could be true to a small group of people, and then eventually start learning from others, and then eventually being able to distill something that can be put together to help people. And you don't just confine yourself about sleep pattern. Like, do you really want to just have a good sleep? Or do you want to have a restorative or recuperative sleep that will give it 4 hours of sleep? You'll be able to regenerate your body in a more efficient way. We live in a time when people work during the nighttime or the daytime. And you cannot just say in your practice, I don't want to deal with people who work on a night shift. You cannot really choose that, because what if they are running a company that's in a different time zone? You need to be able to help them sleep with a different circadian pattern. So that's where I put the circadian rhythm. We don't do anymore just laboratory tests or blood tests. We have gone from that simple approach to testing or measuring everything in the body, where it's a form of a wearable or something that you put into your bed. For example, one thing that I really like when it comes to measuring sleep is not to wear a device that's connected to Wi-Fi. I would want something that I can tuck under the bed, like where the mattress is, and it measures my movement, my breathing, without having to be online. Because there are different stages and different places that where you could actually attach a gadget, and there are certain way of calibrating it or doing the measurement without having to affect your internal ecosystem. There's also in the must know, we know about memory, what we have learned this lifetime, and in meditation you know about more about yourself and your true self depending on several lifetimes, if you even believe that. There's also the called centenarian the goal, which is a must know for a lot of doctors, but for biohackers, it's not just about the goal of reaching 100, but it's age reversal. How do I perform as a 40-year-old when I'm already 70? So are you able to enjoy life, in a very advanced age? With must know in medicine or in hormone replacement, we would like to know the bioidentical form of hormone replacement, but in fact we are moving now towards peptide era. So there's always a change. It's very difficult to get stuck with one place when it comes to medicine, and it's different to be able to adapt and to scrutinize and to be able to research more about the new and upcoming methods that we have in medicine today. And of course, since I'm the one who have treated a lot of patients on stem cell therapy going back 10 years ago, where we have to fly a piece of their skin to Germany, have it processed for 3 months before we get a specific population of ABCP5 positive stem cells to be put back into the body. If you come and ask me, Dr. Rex, I wanted my stem cell, I wouldn't even jump into that same route of giving stem cells again. Because now we're moving from cell treatment to cell-free therapy without using any donor cells, without using even your own cells. And you have to also look at the patient's age, because we know that 10 to 15 years, if the patient gets cancer, it could be because of your stem cell treatment, depending really on the kind of things that you're trying. So medicine has been changing, and it could be that biohacking could be the solution, because you don't really just want to blame it on medicine, but you want it to include or improve the treatment also. So, in the field of biohacking, what is very important to understand is that there must be within the realm of what is ethical and safe. The thing about self-experimentation is that sometimes people, they do not respect themselves also. That they want to do everything in their power to change their behavior, but without respecting that they need to have a limit as well. And ethics is when you need to actually fulfill that one. Understanding personal biology is the first approach. You have a unique set of inherited genes, biochemistry, and environmental exposure. So I think if you really wanted to start this journey of biohacking, or if you want to be a doctor who's kind of different and more clever than your usual approaches, I challenge you to run your genetic profile. I've done mine in 2014 with a different company before. It's like several pages, maybe 20 pages of my genes. And every time I have a flight, I tell you it's a flight because I rarely have time for myself when I'm in the office before. But I would only have time in the plane because there's no reception for mobile phone. That's why I hated it when the airline companies have offered Wi-Fi in the plane. You're like, why Wi-Fi? That's I'm gonna be working again. So that's also what led me to my sabbatical. A few months before the pandemic in 2019, I left the Philippines. I went to Thailand, and I was thinking like maybe I should become a monk. I shaved my head, started to attend meditation classes, and then one time, so this was like during the pandemic already. Patients said, Dr. Rex, did you know that there's gonna be a pandemic, and you closed your clinic a few months before the pandemic? No, I didn't know. I was just so stressed. I really need a break from all of you. And so I went to Thailand. I was sitting next to a monk, and then he asked me, what are you doing here? You're in the north of Thailand, it's like very peaceful, but what are you doing here? I said, I just needed a break. I wanted to just be relaxed, and I wanted to be calm. And he said, what do you do on a daily basis? He said, I cook my own food. I don't have a maid. I don't have a driver. I walk where I need to go. I don't drive. The basic skills that a person needs to know to be able to survive in this world is you need to learn how to drive and you need to learn how to swim. And I don't know those two skills, so I was just like pretty on my own in Thailand. And then he said, so just like living like a monk. The moment I heard that, I packed my bag and left. Like I said, just like a monk. So I have it in me to be able to be quiet, to be relaxed. And then I don't have any environment to do that to me. So that's why I started the path of really like attending meditation in a more relaxed way. It's not anymore wanting to be in meditative state, but being in meditative state. So I'll tell more about that later on. So what's important is that you know your own personal biology, you know your genetics, and you know your blood profile, you know your usual test, and to be able to know really what is inherent in you. Okay, genetic test. I need my phone to be able to send this. In Amsterdam, I had to give a lecture among a crowd of biohackers, and I need them to really understand the importance of genetics. So, if you have this musical score sheet of the Beatles' popular song in the 1960s called "And I Love Her," it will actually look something like this, right? It's like your own genetic test results. It would look something like just a plain information on a piece of paper. That until the orchestra or the band or any instrument plays that musical score sheet, will you be able to hear the music, right? Like similar to this.
I give her all my love, that's all I do.
However, there's not only one type of listening to this music. You know, you could get a different band, like a bossa band, and it will play something like this.
I give her all my love, that's all I do.
Do you agree? So it doesn't mean that just because you have the same genetic information that there's only one type of method of expressing those genes. The second song is what I usually hear in my mind when I have a patient on menopause and I wanted to help her with her hormones, and I look at not just her blood profile of hormones, but also 24-hour urine excretion of those metabolites, and then understand her genetics. So the music becomes more like a bossa nova, rather than the traditional music that the Beatles would do. Now, how would expressing these genes sound like in a biohacker who would do self-testing, who would do monitoring, who would keep on changing the microwave and other things? It would probably sound something like this. Okay, so now you understand what it means. So now and how to understand that you're not stuck with the old ways. There are different ways of switching on and switching off those genes, you know. And sometimes I would again go back to meditation, that by just sitting alone in meditation, you could change the expression of your genes because it kind of quiets down the very inflammatory reaction that one could actually start navigating into when there's work, when there's pressure, when there's stress in the environment.
So you can make music.
The next slide, which we're trying to show you, is the so-called quantify yourself. It's about learning your own personal response to different things. These are, over the years, the kind of gadgets, you know, that I would want patients to try themselves. These are not just the gadgets that I got one time and then try to promote these to you. For example, inner balance. When I was in Thailand, I wanted to measure my level of coherence. How am I responding to my environment, to other people in the community? So I had to wear a device that's like attached to my breathing, like to measure my heart rate variability, and to my earlobes, you know, to measure the level of coherence between my emotional state and my physical state. I also did, and I spoke in the launch of Food Marvel in the US during the pandemic. It was an online event. I was the doctor who actually, one of the doctors was invited to talk about the microbiome. So how do you measure the level of gas formation when you eat certain things? And that's by Angus, a short from Ireland, where he invented the Food Marvel here. This disruptive is by Nordic. You know, the owner, Chris Moore, has an implantable device in his arm to be able, well, it kind of helps you get his LinkedIn profile by just you putting your phone next to his arm. But at the same time, it's something to measure internal body temperature, which we are hoping in the next few years, when it has set a data point that will actually help change a certain strategy for fertility or for disease prevention or prediction, that could also be helpful. Another thing is by, of course, you probably have done the complete glucose monitoring using Freestyle Libre or other devices. And of course, you have here the Spire. Spire is something to measure your breathing and your stress. It's something that you just put the most common clothes that you wear. But it's a sticker. It's washer and dryer proof. You can actually wash your clothes without affecting the device. But it measures the number of breathing that you have when you're exercising, when you're resting. So it kind of gives you an understanding of whether you're stressed or how you will protect building certain stressors. And of course, the aura ring that people would normally wear to measure certain data point over a period of time. So where to start? I think the start of every single aspect of journey to health is through diet and nutrition. And it's very difficult to say what is right when it comes to the eating, because I always teach my patients, there's really nothing bad about food. You know, if you are talking about bad food, then you're probably ingesting something that's bad to your body, and so you become bad, you kind of feel bad. I always tell them to look at food as a blessing. You know, you won't have food on the table if someone did not toil the ground, put it together, harvest the food, and put it all the way from the field to your table. You know, there's something to be grateful about when it comes to eating. So what probably is different in the food now is probably, it's not as nutritious as before. But to say it's bad is probably like a curse you're telling yourself that you're about to eat is a bad food. So there's also a mindset around it. So whenever there's lack of supplements, there's lack of nutrients in the food, the answer is supplementation. And of course, they have gone through different research, even in the newer field of lifestyle medicine, but the longevity supplements. And I put it here. And there are also the microbiome support, prebiotics, probiotics, psychobiotics. Psychobiotics are, and I'd like you to Google this. There's a new probiotics now that's sold in the Netherlands, and you can get it by the UK, that could change the way people think. Meaning, if you take this probiotic, it could change your ideations of having a suicide so that you feel better. Or it could remove your liking to gamble. It's just a combination of probiotics. It's called ecologic barrier. Ecologic meaning ecology, and barrier meaning a barrier or a hindrance. If you Google ecologic barrier probiotics, you'll find there almost the same combination of probiotic. It's just that given in different CFUs, and they are able to change person's stress reaction or depressed state into a normal one. Can you imagine how the bacteria is actually changing the way we live? How many cells do we have in our body? Anyone knows? Yeah. And how many microorganisms you have in your gut? 10 times more than the amount of cells you have in your body. So the question is, who's squatting on whose property? Then self-interventions. Then there are different fasting protocols that one could actually get themselves into depending on what they want to do. So it's not just about intermittent fast, you know. When I tell patients, oh, you're intermittent fast and you do it every day. So what's so intermittent about it? So there has to be probably some form of a break from the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. So you have the time restricted eating, the circadian rhythm fasting, alternate day, 5-day fasting, the eat, stop, eat, and the 5-6-2 diet. And I know you know about it and you can research more about that. Okay, meditation and how to meditate. In fact, there's a very good retreat center in Thailand called Chai. There's this guy, he comes from a rich family. His father used to be the only person in Thailand who has 3 titles. The head of the army, the military, the head of the Air Force, and the head of the Navy. Only one person named. And he has a son who went to London to study in a good university, and eventually came back. He drives a Ferrari, he drives all his friends, went back to Thailand, and he started to meditate, and never left the temple ever since. So he goes to the mom. He's the only son. He's the only heir to all the riches. The mom goes around telling relatives that whoever convinces him to get out of that temple will receive a prize. You know, so they're trying to get him out, but it's been 10 years since he was in the temple. And so he wanted his mom to meditate. And so they built a center where the mom can go to the forest and meditate, you know, in a very uncomfortable space. So they built a place where the mom and the son would meet each time, you know. So it became now a retreat center. It's beautiful, you know, like you you have a certain form of like ceremony. On the third day, you release lantern up in the sky to probably signify letting go or being right with yourself. And also there's like a ritual the Buddhists would do like to release finger, like when small fishes into the water, form of like giving back to Mother Nature. So there's a lot of different approaches to meditation, and all you need to do is just pause and do nothing and just be, you know. So I think that's the difference, the big difference between doing and being. You know, when you meditate, you say, I need to sit, I need to be quiet, that's doing. But you say you're in a car, there's traffic, you just want to close your eyes and just imagine what's happening around you, that's being. Being present could be a form of meditation too. So the practice of just being and not doing anything is a beautiful practice that might be difficult to understand in the beginning, might be difficult to behave in a certain way in the beginning, but it keeps on getting better as you practice and as you practice. You know, you would say that after 30 minutes, you would feel like, oh, there's cramping on your legs, or you keep on like hearing different sounds. That's okay. You're not supposed to do anything about it. All you just need to do is like you're in a bus stop, trying to look at the cars passing by and naming it. Oh, a blue car, oh, a yellow bus. That's what you do in meditation at the beginning. You name it, you become mindful, then eventually you are feeling better, you know. I did also a 10-day silent retreat in Thailand. 10 days. No phone, no talking. And my roommate on the first night, a good friend of mine, he does sound healing. He just taught in Manila recently people how to use Tibetan bowls. He was my roommate during the meditation. And lo and behold, in the first night, there was a scorpion inside our room. We can't even talk, you know, like we can't even like. He was so angry, you know. Scorpions in Thailand is really big, huge. Chiang Mai, you need to have a neon light in the evening when you walk, because or else you won't be able to see them. The second day, okay, I'm still okay. It was difficult for the first 3 days. On the third day, I was hearing band in my head. Like, is there music like playing outside the meditation center? But there's none. Your brain starts to play tricks on you because no gadgets, you don't talk to anyone. What we need to do is like meditate. The monk said, okay, then you just sit, walk. It's a walking meditation, a sitting meditation as well. But on the fourth day, things got very clear. Suddenly, I stopped analyzing things. And I asked the monk, I think I'm getting dumb. Because you can talk to the monk, but you can't talk to anyone, you know? So what do you mean? He said, there are thoughts in my head. I mean, I don't anymore think of problem, solution, things like that. He said that's a good thing, because when you start doing things over and over again, let's say sitting, or if you do a coloring of a mandala, you just do it that your mind kind of travels from your usual concern to something different, and then it's like the needle drops. Everything just stops, and then you become more clear. More clear in a way that I get like say understanding about my family and about my parents that I never really realized before. For example, my father's name, this is kind of weird. I don't want you to believe what I have analyzed in that meditation. My father's name is Felizardo, and his nickname is Czar. My mother's name is Judith, and Judith used to be a queen in the biblical time whose daughter like, the leaders. And my name is Christopher Rex, and Rex means king. How in the world were parents and children and their names are kind of more or less that I learned in meditation, which I didn't really, no one told me because I was quiet. I was just sitting. Thoughts came into my head that I've never really looked into, and then I kind of liberated my stress. And I said, oh, if my family, sort of like by their name, is a royalty, then might as well I start being able to behave like one. To be a model, and to be able to help other people, and to not be stressful about it. So there are things that you could learn when you are meditating that might really help you, or might even help people around you. So lastly, in biohacking, the most important element in the equation is yourself. If you can be healthier, how much more can you bring people around you to become healthier too? You know, it all starts with yourself. And I know that it's difficult to be, as a doctor, to be a role model too. But I think that's owning back our rightful place as someone with influence, as someone who could actually help people more than charge them because of professional fees, But when that person sees you as a model, as someone who could actually bring more good into this world, I think it's time to own that journey for yourself. That's what I got. Thank you.